Oh, there we go. Hello, everybody. Welcome to our webinar on eliminating the pain of quarterly tax payments. Uh, I'm really excited to introduce myself today. Um, my name's Larry Hasson. I'm a tax partner at McIntyre Associates, a CPA, and I practice in Canada. And I'm really excited to be introducing Barrett Young from GWCPA. Barrett, why don't you tell everybody a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, sure thing. So similar to you, tax partner here, small firm, just in Maryland, just south of DC. Been in practice for about 20 years dealing with the headache of estimated tax payments. So I'm really excited to share, the inroads that Remedian's already starting to make in the US. And I'm excited to hear from you about what they've already done up in Canada. So this will be a great webinar.
Fantastic. Yeah, so I think the purpose of today is really we're going to talk practitioner to practitioner, kind of a fireside chat with some interactive polls for the audience, and even a Q&A session at the end if there's questions that come up that we don't cover. And really we just want to frame the problem. Why are tax payments causing so many headaches in your environment and in your practice? And what are firms doing about it now, but how can Remedian fit within that platform? So maybe you can start by just telling me a little bit about the pain today with how your clients pay their taxes. You just went through it probably a few days ago, and the pain is fresh. And why don't you just give us an idea of how you manage it in your firm?
Yeah, so even before the executive order came through at the beginning of this year, we had been trying to push our clients towards online portals, towards online payments. Surprisingly, the IRS's website is actually pretty modern when you use the ID Me and the online portal for payments there. But the problem is getting that set up, getting our clients to go set one up, setting one up for each spouse. It still only solves the problem of the federal tax payment. And the states have some states are great, some states are terrible, some states are great on the individual side, terrible on the business side. And so trying to get a consistent, this is where you go to pay your taxes, has been a struggle. And so to be honest, most of our clients still opt out of it, and we're sending paper coupons and paper checks, and that's really still the reality. Our tax software can handle some of it, but in some cases, you have to have all that projected when you file the tax return and upload it at that point, and making adjustments is a pain in the butt. So yeah, I would say tax estimates are one of my biggest pain points. And then we're going to get into it in this webinar. Cleaning up the mess after they're paid, it adds even more complication. So very excited to see Remedian come through, and frankly, just happy to see we're finally getting some forcefulness to mandate and require this type of payment for the future, because if taxpayers aren't required to do it, they won't. So
when a client chooses to opt out of using a portal and paying it that way, then they move to checks. What extra effort is that on your team in terms of time, admin, chasing? What does the client have to do? What do you have to do to make sure that even that process gets orchestrated correctly?
Yeah, my clients would say it used to be so much easier, because you would print our tax return, you would print all the coupons for us, you would cut them out, you'd include special colored envelopes. We'd use like green for estimate payments, pink for payments due. You'd have it all highlighted. You'd have all the addresses. I mean, we would do so much upfront work with our paper delivery process up till about 7-8 years ago, that all they had to do was open their folder, write the checks, and put them in the mail. Since we've gone to online delivery, do you have your estimated payments? They were delivered with your tax return. Did you download them at that time? If so, are they still sitting in your download folder? If not, you need to go access them to download them. Has anything changed in your situation? If so, then you need to get us information in advance of the quarterly payments so that we can make those adjustments. And then when we're emailing the instructions, this one needs to go to this address, this one needs to be written, put your social in the memo. Hopefully that's there. It's amazing. That's still the only thing sometimes that tracks it to an account. And so just the amount of detailed instructions that we used to do for them, they didn't realize we were doing all that stuff to simplify it for it, but now they have to be the one to print the coupons, write the checks, stamp the envelopes, get the delivery confirmation, everything like that. And so just delivering that, we talked about it in advance of this webinar. It's like the tax planning itself is the value that we're providing as tax preparers. The minutia of the compliance and the follow through and the making sure it actually all gets executed the way that we planned, there's no value there. There's nothing that I'm adding by taking 45 minutes to write an email and making sure all the addresses are perfectly spelled out, just so that they can look at that email and write the wrong, interpose two numbers, or send it to federal payments go to the state and state payments go to the federal address or something like that. So that's definitely the pain. And, it happens every quarter, and it feels like I have to rewrite these emails every quarter for the clients, because situations change, or addresses might change, or amounts might impact it depending on the situation. So.
And then when they courier it or mail it, they have to have some type of return receipt to prove that it actually got there on the right at the right time.
Hopefully, but unfortunately, that means they have to go to the post office most of the time to execute that, and so it's not as easy as throw a forever stamp on it and drop it in your mailbox and say goodbye. You do need to go and fill out a form and then get delivery confirmation and then follow through on that delivery confirmation. Right. Definitely painful.
Oh no, it sounds like it.
And when we're dealing with businesses, I mean, now it's got to be included in your check run. It's got to be signed by a partner, somebody with bank authorization on that. So your controller, your bookkeeper needs to know about it in advance. Right. If you use bill pay service, are they going to include the coupon, or are they just going to mail the check without a coupon attached to it? And then, just again, I have clients, being in Maryland, I've got clients that are filing in 3, 4, 7 different states at any given quarter, and keeping track of all of that with the types of payments and tracing it, and did it actually clear the bank, and do you have a canceled check to prove that it actually cleared the bank, so that we could trace it all down.
Yeah, so I think my clients say the same thing. It used to be easier because I would come in, we would meet together, you would tell me exactly what checks to write, I would write them in front of you, then you would just magically take care of it. I mean, all that stuff takes time, but a lot of the conversations with clients were always about tax payments, how to do it, where to send it, preparing some of the checks, taking care of it for them, making sure the couriers made it on time, otherwise there'd be penalties. There's a lot of logistics and admin support and partner time spent on that really we found wasn't really recoverable, or clients wouldn't really want to pay for it. I suspect you felt the same in terms of what you could bill.
Yeah, and often in many cases, the bill has already been closed out before we even have the client meeting to deliver the tax return. We can do a work in process bill or a progress bill or something like that. But the length of that meeting, the postage that each of those envelopes requires, all of those things would sometimes be carried over to next year. And if they didn't renew next year, then we'd eat those fees because we didn't have a bill to attach them to. And so, it was super complicated. It was a lot of hand holding. And sometimes if they did, I mean, we never itemized our bill to show these things, but if they ever asked, why did it go up? And we had to say, well, because you added an additional 3 states and here's your quarterly postage for those 3 states, they'd be like, you were charging me for that? And it's like, of course we were, because you weren't paying it to the post office, so somebody had to. So
no, I agree. I think for now we have our first poll actually. We have a question here from so do you feel the USA is a more difficult jurisdiction than Canada with respect to tax installments? I mean, I probably have seen both more than, Barrett's maybe seen Canada, but I would say it's a problem in both jurisdictions. There's a broken telephone system between when the accountant tells you what to do and provides a schedule, and then the payments. I think where Canada is a little bit different, just to draw some similarities, is we have installments, but it's calculated and estimated based on the previous year, and they're due monthly.
Mm.
And then there may be installments for sales tax and income tax and other things. So there's more things that need to be remembered to do and more scheduled, but we have fewer jurisdictions to pay.
So Larry, does it change each month then, or you're saying it is a set amount as long as you pay that? What we have in the U.S. is a safe harbor amount,
Yeah.
and as long as you pay that, you don't pay penalties. But if you end up owing, I mean, it could still result in you owing a couple $100,000 at filing.
So in Canada, you can self-select 3 systems. You can pay the anticipated tax, which is essentially what you have, is where you can estimate. Or you can pay the prior year, where you calculate the prior or the prior 2 years. And you can pay based on either of those 3 methods, whether it's monthly or quarterly, depending on how much income you have and the business size. But, there's a formula that calculates all 3. But yes, if you choose to underpay based on the previous year's estimate and you owe, there's going to be penalties and interest too.
Mm.
So it's not deductible as well. So as I tell my clients, it's almost like paying twice.
Yeah.
So you're almost better off paying it a little bit and overpaying slightly than underpaying, because the cost to your business is high. Yeah. But having experienced what I've experienced, I would say for larger practitioners, the U.S. system is more complicated, just because you're dealing with multiple states and jurisdictions. At least in Canada, a lot of provinces have harmonized into federal programs. So we just write one payment, and then they reconcile it on the back end, whereas you have to write many payments to many different places.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
I did not realize that. I was going to ask, how often up there, with the size of the provinces and everything, how often do you have clients that would file in multiple provinces at once? But it sounds like it all goes to one place already up in Canada.
Not all provinces, but a number of provinces do harmonize. So when we file the return, we file the provincial returns with the federal return in one filing. And then we say, here's this lump sum. And then they, on the back end, transfer the funds accordingly.
Yeah. I would say, to the U.S. perspective, it's going to be dependent on the type of firm that you have and the size of the clients you have. So if I were running a tax practice out of California or Colorado or Illinois or, Texas, your entire client base could be based in that one state. And so you only are dealing with one state and one federal payment. And then pass through income, it used to all be taxed on the individual side. And so I was really only dealing with the shareholders or the partners of the companies. My practice has been in Maryland for 20 years. And so I grew up 3 states by default. Virginia, Maryland, DC is pretty much 70% of our clients, and then additional states as they move out of there. So you're dealing with 3 states plus a federal payment. And then since 2020 and the pass-through entity tax credit that we've gotten implemented most of the states, now you're dealing with, this payment is through the entity, but then you also have income on your individual side. And so you need to make this payment still through your individual side. And those go to different addresses for each state, and they have different forms associated with them. So it's definitely feels like it's gotten more complex, even though it's a better decision for most of our clients to have that paid via the entity. It definitely adds confusion. And I'm sure we're going to get into that when we talk about actually cleaning up the mess. But yeah, I mean, not to be biased, I've never dealt with a Canadian taxpayer or a client, but when you've got 51 jurisdictions plus additional territories and things like that, and you've got entity tax and individual tax in all 51 of those jurisdictions, it feels like it should be complicated. And that's why I'm so excited about Remedian.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think like you touched on earlier, there's so many different workflows that can be created to pay taxes, and people do tons of different ways of doing it, but to unify it into one simple workflow where the accountant doesn't have to track all the logistics of addresses and postage, and can make life a little bit better. So we have our first poll question for everybody in the audience, and it's basically, how do your clients currently handle quarterly tax payments? We know how Barrett's do it. We know how mine do it now. But we'd love to hear from everybody in the audience. So we'll give you a minute or so, and then, or not a minute, a few seconds, and then we can go. We'll move on, and then we'll get the poll after that. Okay. So I guess now we've touched base a little bit on what's how the clients pay the tax. So maybe we can shift focus on what happens after. Now they've paid the taxes. You've done the best you can. You've chased them down. What happens? I mean, is it perfect? You've done all the work. The clients are perfect. They tried their best. I imagine after that it's smooth sailing, right?
Absolutely. It's so easy. All I have to do is sell them on writing these huge checks to the IRS and the states, and then it's done from there. Yeah. No, absolutely not. I mean, you talk about telephone, and that telephone system falls apart at the last step. And we usually don't find out about it until, now maybe conservatively a fast response is like within 3 months of something being wrong. But, with work from home and all the paper backlog and everything from COVID, it took them 2, 3, 4 years sometimes to work through that. And so we would find out still, even after the statute of limitations, we don't have a payment for your 2019 tax return or your 2021 tax return, and clearing that up. And so, yeah, that telephone system just gets completely broken once it's in the mail and gets sent away, and it's out of our hands, unfortunately. And that's what the clients get so frustrated with. It's like, why do I have to pay you because the IRS or the state of Maryland messed up the receiving of this? And I'm like, I agree. It's a crime, but they're going to continue to send you threatening notices. I have, clients that are doctors, and as soon as they're a couple months of confusion, even if we're working through a case, they're still getting threats to not be able to renew their licenses or their vehicle registrations. And these automatic notices are generated without anybody looking them over, or opening the case and seeing, is there a dispute being handled here? And so I tell clients, I'm like, we're going to work through this. We're going to respond, usually via paper, unfortunately. We're going to respond to this, but know that it could take a year for this to get cleared up. 6 months to a year, usually, for this to get cleared up, and you're going to continue to get notices. They're going to continue to accrue fees and penalties, and they're going to continue to threaten. And we're just going to continue to send our response and say, we've already responded. Here's the case number. Here's who's working on it, if we're lucky to get that kind of response from them. And then just work through that issue, or it results in sitting on the phone on hold, or getting a courtesy disconnect, or a callback queue or something like that, and then having to have power of attorney to even talk about a situation about the client. I've had clients where they literally have mailed the federal payments to the state, and the state payments to the federal government, and we don't know about it until we file the tax return. The client should be checking and saying that payment never went through, but in their minds, it's like, it was painful enough to have to write the check. They're not following up closely enough, especially with 1040 clients that aren't doing bank reconciliations on a regular basis. Right. Or the payment did get cleared, but it was credited to the wrong year, because I tell my clients this all the time. You're sending a payment coupon and a check. And as soon as that envelope gets open, they go in 2 different directions. And we hope that somebody on both sides are tying them to the same account. Right. But more often than not, the payment will get deposited, but did the coupon credit it to the correct Social Security number, the correct year? We won't know until we file that tax return and get a notice, sometimes 8 months, 12 months, 2 years later. And always, if a client gets a notice, they say, my tax preparer did something wrong. And so they're immediately like, what'd you do wrong on my tax return? And I look at it and I said, they haven't changed any of the numbers we filed. Right. You just don't have one of the payments credited that we claimed. And so go to your bank, get a canceled check, give me that certified delivery receipt, show to prove that we actually paid this. And then they dig into it and they're like, oh no, I never paid that. And I'm like, you told me you paid them. And they're like, I can't find record that we paid it. Check June's bank statement. It never came out. Okay, so you didn't pay it. And so now you do owe that penalty and interest with the notice, because we said you paid it in and you haven't. Or if they did, now we have to clean up the mess. So that telephone game, and again, dealing with 3, 4, 5 different states plus the federal government, sometimes these cases continuing on. I mean, I might have a client that's got a case with the IRS that's been open for 2 years, and they get notice from Maryland for this year, and we're dealing with that. And then their entity has a notice from Virginia, and we're dealing with that all at the same time. And they're looking at me and they're like, "Do you know what you're doing?" And I'm like,
Yeah.
"We do." And you continue to write paper checks, and you continue to not do online payment where we can actually get a confirmation number. And the online payment system is not perfect either. I've had clients that have paid online and gotten confirmation numbers, and it's still, here's a classic situation. I just dealt with this with a client, 2021, $19,000 check, online payment rather, that I have a confirmation number for. He's the secondary taxpayer on the tax return. And he made the payment because it's his business that it's related to. And the IRS is sending them notices over here for a joint tax return under the wife's social security number. And he's getting notices over on this side. We've got this payment on your social. Where should we apply it? And I'm like, both socials are on the tax return. You should apply it to the tax return that you're sending notices over here. I just finally was able to get that cleared up after sending multiple responses and trying to stay on hold to get that cleared up.
Wow.
So the phone system's broken. Even if I can nail it perfectly with my clients, it's going to be received incorrectly in many cases.
Yeah. So it sounds like, I mean, your firm, you put in a lot of effort up front to make sure that they get the adequate information. You send it to them. Then there's a lot of questions that come back right after. And even then, there's still mistakes. Do you bill for that time when you spend fixing it, or do you eat the time? And are there, as a follow-up to that, are there situations where you end up paying the penalty or interest for the client?
So we have started to write into most of our engagements that we're going to handle initial responses to notices, and that's already built into your tax prep fee. So obviously, if we prepare the return and it's an error we made, we're going to own up to that, and we're going to pay reasonable penalties and interest if it's directly related to the issue that we made. In this case, tax payments, that's not really related to an error we made, except that we didn't require canceled checks from you to prove that you said that you paid what you told us you said. And so there is a little bit of that. We are building it into our engagements because we expect most clients, I would say, on a regular basis, every client's going to have an IRS or a state issue, one or the other, probably within the next 4 years. And so by building that in to the pricing and building that into the engagement letters, we're going to cover the first response to it. Now, if it becomes something blown out of proportion or an audit or something like that, obviously that's a separate engagement.
Right.
But an initial response, I mean, I feel like I prepared that tax return. I should be the one responding to it. I had a situation talking about the pass-through entity tax credit. I want my clients to bring it to my attention, even if they feel that it means I screwed something up. This is the first year of the pass-through entity tax credit, which means in the US, the business is paying the state, the Maryland tax, and then the owner, in this case, 100% shareholder, she gets to claim a credit on her personal tax return for the amount that the business paid in. So pass-through entity tax credit, first year, this is 2020 for her business, $4,000 paid through the business, claimed on her personal. She gets a notice, not under the business's EIN from Maryland. She gets a notice under her personal social security number from Maryland saying you owe, $4,800. The tax payment or the amount of credit we claimed that they didn't have record of, plus penalties and interest. And she's so scared of falling afoul of the state that she paid that amount without checking with me and reconciling. We'd already paid that through the business and it's just been misapplied. And so she paid that amount. And so this is $4,000 or $5,000 now that she's out, that the state has collected both payments. And so because of things like that, and you ask clients, why didn't you tell me about this? And they're like, well, I didn't want you to bill me for that phone call or for, reviewing a notice for 15 or 30 minutes or something. So we just want to be proactive and say, I don't care if it's the smallest thing. They charged you $15 for we miscalculated a day on an estimated payment. I want to know about these. And then we can deal with the ones that are actually important enough to deal with. And unfortunately, in many cases for clients where it's like $80, $120 on timing or something like that, I'm like, just pay the penalty. It's not worth fighting about 6 months to get $120 waived with me sitting on hold. And I mean, you're welcome to do it, but it's going to be a waste of time for you as well.
Yeah, no, it's interesting that you've indicated that you've sort of budgeted that already into your fee structure. So there's already sort of a budget for that time that you've been losing, and then it sort of spreads it out. We're similar here. We really don't like the whole nickel and dime of every little penny and every little minute. Same thing when we do a tax return or we do filings, we want to finish the job. We want to be done all the way till the assessment and the balance shows zero and the payment is done. I think the challenge before a service like Remittian is we would deliver the package, down the street, but we didn't deliver it and hand it to the client. So we were almost missing the final mile of the delivery to finish the job. And with the Remittian system, we can actually finish the job, track it, audit it, have it all ready and available, and and not have to worry about. And it takes the stress and anxiety. I mean, I prior to probably had lost some clients because they missed the payments. They insisted they never got the schedule. We showed them the schedule. They said, well, you didn't spend enough time explaining it to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I found someone that is going to take my checks and mail it for me. And you said you won't do that.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, that's just not what we can't do that. And that was too bad. Right. But, so anyways, it's,
yeah, absence Remittian, and what I love about it is that I get payment confirmations on every payment. So I've already got that proactively. So I get a response. I don't have to say, go to your bank, find a canceled check, let's generate this. Absence of that, I'm at the point where, especially dealing with 1040 clients where I only see them on an annual basis, I'm at the point where absence of Remittian telling me I want to wait and file the tax return after the wage and transcript or the tax payment of record is filed for that client. And that's usually about April or so, when that's a finalized transcript of everything the IRS has on record under each Social Security number there. Getting that for every single client is a headache, especially just to cover our butts on the one-off that it actually applies to that didn't get us all the information. But that's a cost that we're going to have to build into our tax prep practice if we do that for those clients. And so having the payment confirmations through Remittian already in advance is hopefully going to delay or defer us from having to go to that extreme. Because if it's a matter of they didn't include a bank account and it's $60 and the IRS adds it to their tax return when they edit it, then I'm okay with that. But it's really there's a $4,000 payment we're claiming that you never made. I want to preempt that as much as possible. And so that's why I'm excited about, like we talked about, Remittian, one platform, all the payments visible from both their perspective, my perspective, before I file the tax return.
Right. So I think shifting gears, why don't we do our second poll question for the audience? And it's, what's your biggest headache with tax payments? And I think there's 4 options there. So click the one that you think is most applicable. I look at the options and I think they're all terrible. So lots of time on hold and getting authorizations and all that good stuff. But I'd be interested to see if everybody else has the same shared experience. Yeah. So I'll give everyone kind of 10 seconds for that. And so I think we've talked a lot about the problems and the pain and what happens afterwards to fix it. But, I think in Canada, we've had Remittian now, and our firm's been using it for a while. So I can give you a little taste about what a better process looks like and what it's meant to how I interact with clients and my day-to-day. So right now, so prior to we had the same system processes, right? We do the checks, the vouchers, all that sort of stuff. Right now, I have had Remittian working in the firm. with a lot of my clients. And when I meet now with the year end, whether it's face to face or Teams or we deliver the tax return, it used to be I would have a long conversation as part of my year end meeting that would talk about the payments, how to make them, the logistics, things like that. Now we just go to this page that has the installments in the schedule, and the conversation is, you owe this and this is why, and we go through the tax return and this is how your business is doing, and here's your installment schedule for next year. And usually the client says, oh, that's already set up. Yep. When you leave here today and you sign your tax return, you also will get a notification to access the Remittian platform to approve the schedule of payments. So the client is still in control. They're still the one approving the payments because it's coming from their bank account. We discuss maybe we're going to make some changes because the income went down. But the payments are a byproduct of the conversation about the business and the advisory side and the revenues and the projections and the planning for the future. It's not the purpose of the meeting. Whereas I was finding prior to, it was the purpose of the meeting. Now the purpose of the meeting is the planning and the advisory, and the payments are sort of they fall out of that, and there's just trust in the system that, okay, I'm going to get the schedule that we talk about and approve together. I'll approve the schedule, and then we can go about focusing on how I can provide advice and do tax planning and really kind of do the fun stuff of the job, and less of the admin stuff on the job. So I don't really, and then we know it goes to the right place, the right tax account on the right date. So we're not getting those notifications you didn't pay. We're not getting the misapplied payments to the wrong year or the wrong account. So all those nuisance emails, the after work, the tax season's done, I just killed myself till September 30th, 15th. And then, or, in your case, the quarterly or April 15th or whatever your deadline is. And then for the next few weeks, you're fielding all these questions about logistics. But you can't just relax and go take your vacation or focus on the planning and the advisory that you want to do. So in my world, I don't have a lot of those logistics anymore because we've built a process within our system that leverages the technology to do it. And that's created a really nice relationship with clients. We also get referred clients now because we use that tool, because it's just so easy for those clients that are really stressed about payments. And it creates anxiety, mental load. There's a burden there, that it's hard enough paying tax, but then the act of actually making the payment is hard too. So it's like doubly hard.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this dream world.
Yeah.
And we're planning on rolling this out across our entire customer base. And this is going to be key for us, because if I don't, then I'm still going to have this quarter of our clients over here that I have to go somewhere else, or I have to handle the emails, I have to handle all of or it just gets delivered with the tax return. Even if we only see them once a year and it gets delivered with the tax return, I still want to feed those payments in and set the reminders up through Remittian so that I can go down and I can say, okay, yes, we delivered these through the tax return. No, we're not editing it for June 15th. It's just going to be automatic reminders, and they're going to link their bank accounts. Or they didn't link their bank accounts. They completely ignored everything that we did. Maybe for some of them, I can reach out and say, you really should pay this so you're not surprised. And for other ones, I just won't include it on their tax prep, on their tax return next year. I'm looking forward to having that single dashboard. And it's unfortunate because the executive order covers federal IRS payments, and even that's probably going to take a couple of years for that to fully be mandated. I think you guys said you had it in like a 2-year stage or something to get to that point. But the tax software and so many of the people talking about that are like, but you can still do whatever you want with the states. And I'm like, stop telling people that, because if I'm going to do this for the IRS, I'm going to do this for Maryland. I'm going to do this for Virginia and DC, because I don't want to have a second or a third or a fourth source. And it's like, well, your federal tax payments are through Remittian, but you need to go over here and create a Maryland website. I mean, the states are the worst part. Like I said, IRS has surprisingly solved this really well with their modern portal that came out 3 or 4 years ago. It's fantastic if both spouses set up an account and you go through all that process, which I had to hold up my driver's license and I had to get a picture with a real interview with somebody to do all that. But to have it all in one place, to be able to look across my client base, whether they own a business, whether they're in a trust, whether they're a partner that we don't do the personal 1040, but we're doing the tax payments planned through that. They're sent to them. They link their bank account. They approve the payments all in one place. We're rolling this out across the client base for fourth quarter, and then obviously extension payments in first quarter 26. And we're going to have to mandate it on our end, because again, the more we don't force that up across the client base, the more sources we're going to have to say, and we're going to have this exception. I've got, oh no, I need to set a reminder. This person still wants me to email them. And I want those reminders, like you said, I want those reminders to be proactive advisory services. How'd your business do for the past quarter? Let's talk about that. Let's not talk about, hey, do you remember the coupon I sent you with your tax return back in March? Pay that coupon.
Yeah, or I think you had mentioned before, you may be chasing 40 different clients you can't get paid more for to make sure they made their payments. And there's 5 that really need detailed advisory that you sort of have to ignore because the fire is burning over here for things that, that you ignore, but you just have to push that back when you got to wait till I'm not as busy dealing with these things. So, I mean, and I agree with you. It's not like when you're preparing tax returns, you're opening up 50 different pieces of software for every state, right? That would be crazy. You can't have a process for every different state and every different space. You want it really in one platform that is easy to digest, interacts or integrates with your customer platform, so you have a place to track it. It's all in one spot.
And Maryland, I've harped enough on my broken state. Virginia did something right. 10 years ago or so, they started mandating if your tax due for the year is over $2,500, it must be paid electronically. So they were forceful on that 8 to 10 years ago. And so when the pass-through entity tax credits started sweeping through the country in 21, Virginia was a year behind Maryland, but they had from day one online payment capability. Maryland passed the pass-through entity tax credit in 2020, but it wasn't until last year, 2024, when you could even make estimated payments. It was fourth quarter 24 where they had a payment portal set up to make the estimates virtually, and they still don't have the ability to make a balance due payment electronics. So I have to tell my clients, well, make your 9/15 estimated payment online, but then print out a check and mail in your balance due with your 9/15 last year's tax return via paper. And putting all that in one place. I mean, they've got different portal for individual, different portal for pass-through entity tax, different portal for sales tax, all these different logins. And every single web page feels like it's designed by a completely different state government, and it's all Maryland. So,
and what I'm amazed about just hearing this from you is that it almost takes a degree or many, many years of experience just to know the nuance for every state and every payment and every type and every entity type. I mean, it just seems, it's how long will it's probably taken you many years to figure that out.
Like they say, good judgment comes from experience, and experience comes from bad judgment. So the experience of not spelling it out to this minute detail for clients has taught me you have to be overly communicative to do this. And that's where things like the receipt delivery, I should be able to drop something in a post office and trust that it gets there. But experience has showed me, no, pay the extra, $2, $5, $20, whatever it is, to have somebody deliver and say, we got it delivered on this date and time.
We are the same. We have the return, the receipt, because inevitably it's that important check that needed to be there that wasn't there. So we'll jump to our third poll. Just more, I think, to generally understand, like, how many of your clients make payments across multiple states? And there's a few options there, just to get an idea of our audience and if they're in big states or close to smaller ones. Yeah. And then I noticed we have some questions in the chat as well. We can probably cover a couple of them, and we'll answer maybe from a Canadian and broader context, and then the U.S. context. Barrett can jump in.
Yep.
Oh, I see here.
So Aaron's answering that question, it looks like.
Yeah. Okay, thanks. Yeah, so we've got some people here to answer. Yeah. Is it faster than the government portal? I think,
I'm happy to jump in on this
yeah,
one.
right. Yeah. You have more experience with that. Yeah.
Is it faster than using one government portal? Possibly no. Is it faster to set up than setting up a government portal? Absolutely. Absolutely it is. I onboarded with Remedian on June 13th, and I went ahead and did my own personal estimates. At the time, Remedian was only available for the federal estimates in second quarter of this year. But I set that up, sent it to my personal email. I got an email. I already had all remaining 3 quarters done. Clicked approve on the first one, left the next 2 pending. I'm getting reminders about those coming towards 9/15 and then June 15th or January 15th. Linking my bank account. That's going to be client dependent, how quickly they're able to do that. But I already have to walk them through that with our online bill pay service. Our online invoicing service as well. So that's a staff training and a walkthrough, possibly some video walkthroughs to explain that to some of my other clients. But that's one government portal. And if we had a situation where all of our payments went to one source, I would say then we don't need Remedian. But again, I'm dealing with Maryland state for entity, Maryland state for individual, government for, both social security numbers for the joint tax return, multiple partners for entities. And so handling all of that to be able to do tax planning for an entity that's got 12 partners, me feed in the payment coupons for the next 3 quarters for all 12 partners with their email addresses and have that all sent out is absolutely faster. And then all they need to do is log in on their end. They only see their payments. They approve the payments for all 3 quarters, or we leave them open or undetermined for the future ones so I can do some tax planning in the 3rd and 4th quarter. They link their bank account, they approve it, and it's done.
Yeah, we in Canada for the most part have one portal, but it's already, Remedian is still, I would say, more valuable because it can set up the schedules. It allows the accountant to be in the loop to set up the payments, which reduces a lot of risk or anxiety for clients. Did I enter into the right period? Did I put it in the right account? Did I enter the right amount? People sometimes even just get nervous about that and have it in their mental load to do. Where the accountant is in the loop and says, hey, here's the scheduled payments, we've agreed upon it, or here's the payment, and this is where it is. There's a lot of comfort that, okay, it's done right. And obviously the system uses some AI to ensure that as well by extracting the key information. So there's a lot of validation so that, it's checking to make sure things are done correctly as well, which is good too. No input errors. Yeah.
And the faster than using a government portal, I could probably count on one hand the number of states that actually have accountant access to those government portals.
Yeah.
And even the IRS is still slow to adopt its taxpayer login and linking accounts and everything like that. So I said we're going to deploy Remedian across our entire customer base. That even includes just a tax return where they're getting a refund or they only have a balance due payment and they don't pay estimates. I'm probably still going to force the adoption across my entire customer base, because even if they're only writing a check for $200, I want to know that that payment was delivered and I have confirmation of it, because that $200 check payment that I could just say, I'll see you next year, that's the one where the client doesn't have a high level of trust with me because they're talking to me on a monthly basis. Those are the ones where when something goes wrong, I want to be able to be proactive and respond to that and handle that situation for that client. And so if I mandate this across the entire customer base, and then we get to the point where they have estimates, you're already set up. You've already linked your bank account from your tax due balance last year. And so it's easy for me to now say, okay, we'll now pay an extra $3,000 to the IRS this quarter for the house that you sold, for some situation that came up in your tax planning. And then it's already built in there, and I can go down my list and I can match it to my client list. And I know we're 100% covered. I haven't missed anybody.
Yeah. And I think there was a question, one more question here, I guess, is what if a payment bounces or gets rejected? I can speak to that in Canada. So there's a bit of a time lag in Canada just because of the payment processing systems. But Essentially, if the system detects there's insufficient funds within the bank account, it will alert the taxpayer and the accountant, depending on how the account is set up, that, hey, there's not sufficient funds to make this payment. Do you want to make arrangements to split up the payment into two and calculate the interest? Do you want to move the funds into the account? And then we can make the payment. So there's some magic that happens on that end to ensure it doesn't happen. That you have another chance to make sure that it works, right? So I think Aaron maybe mentioned there. So you can reschedule, change bank accounts, come up with other solutions to make sure that you don't make the payment. And as I said, the interest and penalties, they're not deductible. So it's almost better to pull it out of a line of credit to pay the tax, because then you can at least write that off, the interest off, and it's more tax efficient than paying the government. So I think, that was it for question. Barrett, do you have anything to add for that?
I mean, I haven't had that happen, obviously, because I only set it up for myself for second and third quarter. But so on my end, I rejected my third quarter payment that I set up myself. And so I rejected it. So in my mind, the client didn't do what the tax preparer told him to do, but I still continued to get reminders from Remedian saying, are you sure you don't want to approve this payment? I'm getting reminders as the tax preparer side, this person rejected the payment. That's just in the case of, I knew I was going to have an overpayment. I finally filed 24's tax return, knew I had an overpayment, didn't need to make my third quarter payment. But it's continuing to remind me, your tax advisor, Barrett Young, thinks you should pay this third quarter payment. So that was really cool. I set up my second quarter payment, and I was nervous to adopt Remedian the first time. I'm like, what's the lag going to be? I'm setting this up on a Friday. The payment's due on Monday. Is it going to work? I already had these payments set up in IRS.gov's website, the ID.me login. I'd had them scheduled for second, third, and fourth quarter. So I canceled the second quarter, but I logged into my portal that afternoon on the June 15th and saw the payment was already registered against my portal that Remedian had made. They withdrew the amount, and it was there on Monday, and it was in my portal Monday afternoon. So I gained the confidence of there's no like 2 or 3 day delay or anything here that I need to worry about. And then I was able to cancel the third quarter payment, cancel the fourth quarter payment, and handle it all through Remedian now. For my own personal situation, because as a professional, I want to test this and I want to have a level of assurance before I roll it out to all my clients and say, this is what you should do. This is the best solution since anything, and then have it completely fail in front of them. So I was testing it and I was very pleased with the results.
100%. I mean, I think when we had started using it, I had a partner and I'd done my testing. I tested it with my wife, which is always high risk. And, in the end, one of my partners was nervous. I said, just try it, and she tried it. Within 2 months, she's like, I don't know how I used to lie in bed the night before, be like, oh yeah, I have to forget, don't make the payment tomorrow, or set reminders in her calendar and all these things. And once it was set up, within 2 months, she just said, I don't know how I lived before.
Yeah.
Because the mental load was there and now it's not there anymore. And there's a lot of value in that. Yeah.
That's a good point. We haven't talked about that. Being able to set up an estimated payment for a state does not mean you're necessarily going to also set up a third quarter or a fourth quarter estimate in the future. And then there is the mental load of, did I remember to set one up for January 15th? Maybe I should log in a couple times over the next couple months to refresh my memory. And what did I set that amount to? And so now all of that's going to be on a dashboard on my end. And you can also click on your Remedian dashboard at any point as a client, log in and see the payments that were made, the payments that are set up, and the confirmation numbers on your end as well. So it is that transparency across both dashboards that I'm really excited about.
And then there's just that final sanity check at the end to say, okay, are there any clients we missed the quarterly for? Are there any expiring schedules that we just forgot not about, that, or just slipped through the cracks? You've got sort of another source of truth to make sure that doesn't happen. So, I mean,
this is one of our huge clients and we missed a payment. So I'm going to proactively call them on the 16th and say, hey, this did not go through. We need to get this fixed, because it's going to be a big penalty if it waits till the 17th. Exactly. So be proactive. And you talked about, I have those 4 or 5 clients that I do the quarterly planning for, but I'm dealing with so many of the instructions for all the rest of them. I want to turn some of those other ones into the quarterly proactive advisory. I'd love to take that 4 or 5 and add another 4 or 5, but because I'm so nervous about how much hand holding I'm going to have to do for just the reminders and the setup and everything like that, I can't take the tax planning time. And I'm looking forward to that with Remedian. I'm able to see these are our clients who are just default to whatever was projected at the end of their last tax return. These are the ones that we handle on a quarterly basis. These are the ones we only do year-end planning for, all in one place, all the payments listed out by jurisdiction.
So I just want to wrap up. I feel like I can talk about tax all day, especially with Barrett. I mean, I think when we talked earlier this week, I was like, oh, we got to go already. Like that went by so fast. So, I think I just wanted to thank everybody here for watching. There's a QR code here up if you want to try a pilot. So you can do that. You can obviously there's a little click and subscribe. I want to say thank you to Barrett for your time today and for your expertise. And I learned a lot more about the U.S. system, and I'm sure a lot of people here did too. And I'd like to thank everybody for the attendees and for some of the questions that we had here today. So I appreciate that for everybody.
Larry, I just want to say thank you. And I know you're also on the advisory board with Remedian, advising them on the platform and everything. So just to you and Salon and all the team at Remedian, thank you guys for being proactive, because Remedian was on our radar a year ago at this point. So even 6 months before the executive order came through. And so it was not a scramble for us. And I just want to thank you guys in Canada for being proactive on this, the whole development team there at Remedian, so that when something this disruptive comes along, I can confidently say we're going to be okay for this next tax season. And I can start telling my clients, we've got a solution, we're testing, we're waiting for, this handful of states to be ready to go before we roll this out, but we're already preemptively working on this. So thank you for facilitating this discussion, but then also thank you for advising them in the rollout of their platform up there.
I think the team's doing a great job, and I thank them as well. I also, at the bottom, there's an email that's on the banner if anyone wants to call for pricing, because it's probably depending on the firm and the size, but it's sales@remitian.com, and you can also email that to book a demo. So appreciate everybody taking some time off at lunch, and look forward to connecting when we do our next webinar. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.